When Barack Obama was asked on live TV about Donald Trump's fixation on him, the moment didn't just spark laughs, it set the room on fire. The crowd leaned in, the host grinned, and everyone waited for Obama's reply. Trump had thrown out another jab about the election and politics, but no one knew what was coming. Obama, calm as always, let the silence hang before delivering one line, short, sharp, and hilarious. The audience erupted, the host doubled over, and cameras shook, as millions at home later replayed the moment on loop. It wasn't just an answer. Obama stole the night. The energy was set long before he spoke. The studio in Los Angeles was buzzing, the crowd clapping through breaks, waiting for the surprise teased by the host. When Obama walked out, the applause thundered like a concert. Phones went up, people cheered, and he strolled out with his trademark smile, shaking hands before settling into his seat, perfectly at ease. Jason McCready, the host known for blending comedy with politics, wasted no time. "So, I don't know if you've heard, but Donald Trump had some pretty colorful words about you this week," he said, grinning. The audience laughed, eager for the exchange. Obama chuckled softly like he was already planning his move. Jason added, "He said you were the worst thing to happen to TV since black and white reruns. Personally, I think he owes I Love Lucy an apology. What do you make of that?" The room rippled with laughter, but all eyes were on Obama. He leaned back, adjusted his jacket, and let the pause linger until the crowd fell silent. Then, with a faint smile, he delivered, "Well, if I'm the worst thing to happen to television, then Donald must be the best thing to happen to late-night comedy. He's been giving you material for free." The punchline detonated. People clutched their stomachs, Jason dropped his pen and howled, and Obama just raised his eyebrows as if to say, "Did I lie?" One effortless line became the headline of the night. Viewers at home tweeted the moment instantly, and before the first commercial break ended, clips were already trending. But it wasn't just the joke that landed. It was the way Obama delivered it. He let the silence hang, built the tension, and then broke it with perfect timing. That's why it worked. It wasn't cruel, just sharp and funny, turning the whole room against Trump without raising his voice. In today's world, where every word is analyzed, the fact that one quick remark could dominate the news was incredible. For the audience, in Los Angeles, it felt bigger than late-night TV. They weren't just watching. They were part of something people would text about the second they left the studio. Even when the cameras cut to commercial, laughter and applause rolled on, the energy refusing to die down. What shocked people later was how fast it spread, jumping from stage to screens to dinner tables in just hours. Anyone who's been to a live taping knows the buzz in the air, but that night felt different. The theater was packed, lights blazing, and whispers carried through the crowd, everyone wondering what Obama might say if Trump's name came up. Some were comedy fans, some lifelong Obama supporters, others just there with free tickets, but together they made an audience that felt alive, ready to react. The set was warm and polished. Jason McCready at his mahogany desk, 2 chairs angled, close for conversation, the fake Los Angeles skyline glowing behind them. Cameras floated silently as red lights blinked with every live shot. And when Obama appeared, the room shifted instantly. Even those who weren't political shot to their feet, cheering like he was a rock star. Jason broke the roar with a grin. "Ladies and gentlemen, you do realize he's not running for prom king, right?" The crowd laughed. Obama waved them down, smiling with that easy charm that once filled stadiums. When the noise settled, Jason leaned forward. "All right, Mr. President, let's get into it. You've been quiet for a while, some say too quiet. Meanwhile, your old rival Donald Trump's been saying plenty. Any thoughts?" The line was bait, and everyone knew it. Chuckles spread as people leaned in, sensing a highlight. Obama didn't rush. He folded his hands, glanced at Jason, and answered softly. "Jason, if I responded to every one of Donald's comments, I'd need a permanent desk on this show." The studio exploded. Jason buried his face in cue cards, shouting, "See? One line from you and I can fire my writing staff." The crowd roared while Obama stayed cool, smiling as if he'd said nothing remarkable. That was his secret. Understatement. He never looked like he was trying to land a blow, which made it hit even harder when he did. Then Jason leaned in again, pretending to search his cards. "Okay, but seriously," he said, "Trump's been talking about 2024, bringing up your name over everything, from the economy to, I don't know, the price of eggs. Do you feel like he's still running against you?" The way he asked cornered Obama, either dodge it or face it head on. The silence stretched, the audience holding its breath. Obama tilted his head with a sly grin. "Jason, Donald's been running against me since 2008. The problem is, he hasn't won once." The studio erupted. The roar was so loud it seemed to shake the walls. Jason slapped his desk, pointing at Obama like he just witnessed a knockout punch. Even the band cracked up some freezing mid-note. Through it all, Obama stayed calm, adjusting his tie and waiting for the noise to fade. He wasn't soaking it in. He was controlling it. That's what made it work. Producers traded knowing glances behind the cameras, already aware the clip would loop endlessly online. Even security guards at the edge of the stage couldn't help but laugh. Jason finally raised his hands, trying to take back control. "Okay, I have to know. Do you plan these zingers, or do they just pop into your head?" Obama chuckled. "Jason, if you think I sit at home practicing comebacks for Donald Trump, you've got the wrong guy." He paused, eyes flashing. "That's his job." The crowd howled again, the band striking up to keep the show moving as Jason nearly fell, out of his chair laughing. But what no one knew, the sharpest line of the night hadn't even been delivered yet. Jason sensed it. He'd interviewed presidents, senators, and celebrities, but this felt different. The rhythm with Obama was smooth, like a tennis rally where one player was holding back just enough to keep it fun. The audience could feel it too, leaning forward, waiting for the next volley. Jason lowered his voice, cards in hand. "All right, let's stop dancing around it. Trump's been calling the last election rigged, calling you everything from a fraud to Hollywood's favorite actor pretending to be a politician. And just last week in Phoenix, he said if Barack Obama had run in 2020, it wouldn't have been close. What do you make of that?" The laughter cut instantly. The room went quiet, eyes fixed on Obama. He tapped the chair's armrest, leaned back, and exhaled. "I've learned something about Donald," he said slowly. "He says a lot of things that sound tough, until you check the facts. And the facts usually tell a different story." The audience clapped softly, sensing the shift. Jason pressed on. "So, if you had gone head-to-head with him in 2020, what would have happened?" Obama raised his brows. "First off, I didn't need to. Joe Biden handled that just fine. But if Donald's asking, here's my answer. Elections aren't won with slogans and insults. They're won with plans, with policy, and with trust. And between the two of us, I think Americans know who they trusted." The cheers thundered, Jason pounding the desk like a gavel. "Case closed," he declared. But Obama wasn't finished. He leaned in, voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. Obama leaned in, pausing just long enough to build suspense. "Now, I'll admit, if it had been me on that stage, Donald would have had one advantage." Jason blinked. "What's that?" With a grin, Obama delivered. "He wouldn't have had enough material for 2 campaigns. He's been running against me since 2008, and after all these years, he's still losing." The room detonated. People shot to their feet, cheering so loud it rattled the walls. Jason slapped his desk, then jumped up, pacing like a coach celebrating a game-winning play. "Oh my God, that's brutal," he shouted. The cameras caught audience members wiping away tears, couples clutching each other, and even the crew grinning behind the lenses. When Jason finally collapsed back into his chair, still laughing, he shook his head. You realize that clip just earned me 1 million views before the show even ends." Obama chuckled, shrugging. "Happy to help your ratings, Jason." But Jason wasn't done. Leaning forward, he asked, "Does it bother you? The jabs, the obsession, the way Trump keeps pulling your name into everything?" This time, Obama grew serious. He clasped his hands, looked at Jason, then out at the crowd. "Politics is noisy. People say a lot to get attention. But here's the truth. Leaders should focus on people's lives, not their grudges. If all you've got after years in office is complaints about someone else, maybe you're in the wrong business." The applause was heavy, not wild. People nodding, some rising to clap out of respect more than humor. Jason's smile faded into something thoughtful. "That's actually a great point," he admitted. "So, what do you say to people who feel like the country's stuck in this endless back and forth between you and him?" Obama turned to the camera, calm but firm. "I'd say this: stop waiting for Donald or me to solve your problems. Pay attention to the leaders working right now, at every level. Local, state, national, that's where real change happens. Rivalries make headlines, but they don't build roads, lower healthcare costs, or make schools better. At the end of the day, people want results, not a grudge match." The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Jason tried waving them down, but it was clear the moment had shifted from comedy to truth. Yet even as the applause roared, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. Obama wasn't finished. Jason leaned closer, eyes gleaming. "Okay, Mr. President, you've been calm, classy, but people at home want me to push harder. So let's say Donald Trump was sitting in that chair right now. What would you say to him?" The audience gasped and laughed at the boldness of the question. Obama leaned back, crossed his legs, and gave his trademark half-smile, the one that always signaled a knockout was coming. "Well," he said slowly, "if Donald were here, I'd probably tell him to relax. He's still talking about me more than 8 years after I left office. At some point, you have to wonder who he's really running against, me, Joe, or his own reflection." The studio exploded. Jason doubled over, pounding his desk with both fists. Audience members stood, some spinning in their seats to laugh with strangers, while the band launched into an improvised riff like they were scoring the moment. Obama didn't laugh at his own line. He simply shrugged, palms up, as if stating something obvious. That contrast, serious delivery paired with razor-sharp humor, made the blow land even harder. Jason wiped tears from his eyes, trying to catch his breath. "Oh my God, that's... wow." Jason shook his head, laughing. "I don't even think Saturday Night Live could have written that." Obama smiled. "That's the thing about Donald. He's his own material. You don't have to write it. He delivers it for you." The laughter this time carried something deeper: relief. Years of political brawls, endless headlines, and constant noise suddenly cut through by one clean line. It felt like Obama had voiced what everyone had been thinking. Jason leaned forward again. "Okay, but what if Trump hears this clip, and you know he will, and fires back? What then?" Obama tilted his head, playful but steady. "Then I'll know he was watching. And honestly, if I can keep him focused on me for a night, maybe the rest of America gets a little peace and quiet." The studio shook with laughter. Jason stood up, pacing the stage with his hands on his head. "This is insane. You're roasting him harder than my writers ever could." Obama raised his brows. "I'm not roasting him, Jason. I'm just telling the truth. It's not my fault the truth sounds like a joke." The crowd howled. Cameramen zoomed in on Obama's calm face against the storm of laughter, an image destined to flood social media before the night was over. Jason finally sat back down, still laughing. "Mr. President, I don't think you even realize how funny you are. Have you ever thought about doing stand-up?" Obama chuckled. "I'll leave that to the professionals. Besides, if I started telling jokes full-time, Donald would probably try to run against me in comedy clubs." That line cracked the room wide open. People stomped their feet, clapped until their palms stung, and shouted from the back rows. The band jumped into an upbeat riff just to contain the chaos. Jason threw his cards in the air. "Good night, everybody. We've peaked." Of course, the show wasn't over, but the atmosphere had shifted. What started as a routine late-night interview had turned into something electric, unpredictable, unforgettable. Obama wasn't just answering questions. He was conducting the room. His timing, his pauses, his smirks, every line landed like a punch from a master performer. Those watching live knew they were witnessing lightning in real time. Even people who never laughed at politics were doubled over, wiping tears from their eyes. Yet the biggest laugh of the night, the knockout line everyone would remember, hadn't come yet. The cameras zoomed in closer, the lights seemed brighter, and the audience leaned forward as one. Jason could feel it too. Something big was coming. He steadied himself, lowering his voice like he was trying to pull a secret out of an old friend. "All right," he said, "we've danced around this long enough. You've joked about his obsession, his comebacks. But if you had to sum it up, Trump's fixation on you, the way your name keeps showing up in his speeches, interviews, even his old tweets, what would you say to him? What's the one thing you'd want him to hear?" The room froze. You could hear the faint creak of a camera crane shifting. Obama leaned back, eyes narrowing just slightly, then folded forward, hands clasped. He let the silence stretch, making the weight of the moment sink in. Finally, with calm precision, he said, "Well, Jason, if Donald's still talking about me this much?" "After all these years," Obama said calmly, "maybe I wasn't the president he wanted to replace. Maybe I was the father figure he never had." The studio erupted like a volcano. People screamed, jumped out of their seats, bent over clutching their knees, waving their hands as if they'd just witnessed history. Jason shot up from his chair, stumbling backward, both hands on his head, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. The band tried to play over the chaos, but it was pointless. The room was gone. Obama didn't laugh, didn't even smirk. He stayed perfectly still, composed, letting the laughter and shock consume the space around him. That restraint was the brilliance. The line landed sharper because he didn't need to celebrate it himself. Jason finally found words, pacing the stage in disbelief. "Oh my God, did you hear that? Did everyone hear that? You just destroyed him. Completely destroyed him." The cameras cut to the audience. College kids bouncing in their seats, an older couple crying with laughter, producers backstage wiping their eyes, even security guards grinning at each other. Obama raised a single eyebrow and added smoothly, "Look, I'm just saying, if you keep talking about a guy every week, eventually people start wondering if you need him more than he needs you." Another explosion of laughter. Jason collapsed, back into his chair, slapping the desk just to ground himself. "This is history. I don't even know what to say. Forget YouTube, forget TikTok. I'm framing that line and hanging it on my wall." The moment had already outgrown the show. Phones were up everywhere, people whispering to each other, realizing no one would believe them when they said they'd been in the room. Jason, still gasping for air, leaned forward. "You do realize, Mr. President, that no matter what Donald says next, he'll never top that. He could rent a blimp, write it in the sky, it doesn't matter. That's the headline." Obama finally allowed himself a small smile. "Well, Jason, I've always believed that when people show you who they are, you should listen. Donald shows us every day. All I did was put it into words." The room erupted again, this time a crashing mix of laughter, cheers, and applause that felt less like a TV taping and more like an arena concert. People stomped their feet, stood on chairs, leaned over railings to yell toward the stage. Cameramen shook with laughter behind their rigs, trying to keep the shots steady. Jason, still shaking his head with his cue card scattered, looked at Obama in awe. "Mr. President, I've been doing this show for 12 years, and I've never seen a studio react like this." Obama gave that slow, knowing smile. Well, Jason, sometimes the truth just needs the right punchline. From the corner, the band leader, saxophonist Curtis Green, couldn't resist chiming in. That wasn't a punchline. That was a knockout. The audience cheered again, clapping in rhythm as if daring him to keep going. Jason pointed toward him, laughing. Exactly. Even my band is stunned. And trust me, they've seen a lot. Turning back to Obama, Jason leaned in. How does it feel? That line you just dropped, it's already leaving this room. It's going to explode online before we even wrap. Obama leaned back, casual. You know, Jason, when you've been in politics as long as I have, you don't think about moments like this. You think about how people at home are feeling. If they laughed tonight, if they felt just a little lighter for 5 minutes, then I did my job. The sincerity shifted the room. The audience, still buzzing, gave a quieter, more thoughtful round of applause. Jason wasn't ready to let go, though. He leaned closer. I gotta be honest, I've interviewed plenty of people who've taken shots at Trump. Some come off clumsy, some angry. But you, it doesn't even sound like an attack. It sounds like a conversation, and that makes it land harder. Obama chuckled. Jason, you ever hear the phrase, kill them with kindness? Sometimes, kindness and humor together cut deeper than anger ever could. The audience roared, this time with applause that rolled like thunder. People weren't just laughing now, they were nodding, clapping, cheering. It felt like more than entertainment. It felt like affirmation. Behind the cameras, producers flashed frantic hand signals. One whispered, "We've got it. This is the clip." In the control room, monitors replayed the line on loop as engineers tried to balance sound levels spiking from laughter. Backstage, crew members shook their heads. "Trump's gonna lose it when he sees this," one said. Another added, "This'll be on CNN before breakfast." Jason, sensing the weight of the moment, reeled Obama back in. "Okay, let's play this out. You know Donald's going to respond. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. What do you think he'll say?" Obama tilted his head, smiling. "Probably the same thing he always says, that the media's unfair, that everybody's against him. Maybe he'll post something at 3 in the morning. But here's the truth, Jason. When you're more focused on me than the people you're supposed to serve, you've already lost the argument." The crowd clapped again, this time with a serious edge. Jason glanced over the audience, then back at his guest. "You realize," he said softly, "you just gave them exactly what they came for. Laughter, truth, and a story they'll be telling for the rest of their lives." Obama smirked, leaned back, and deadpanned. "Well, Jason, that's the least I could do. Besides, your ratings needed the help." The audience howled, Jason throwing his head back. "He's killing me. Absolutely killing me." From the wings, the floor manager waved frantically. 30 seconds until commercial. Jason turned to the camera, flushed and grinning. "Ladies and gentlemen, stay right where you are, because when we come back, we'll try to recover from this absolute obliteration." The band struck up a funky riff, lights dimmed, and cameras pulled back. Audience members whispered excitedly, texting friends that they'd just witnessed something historic. When the broadcast finally wrapped, the studio still buzzed with disbelief. As they spilled out into the Los Angeles night, people didn't walk like they were leaving a TV taping. They walked like they'd just been part of a championship game. The second the audience pulled out their phones, the real show began. Clips of Obama's one-liner were already flying online before the taping even ended. A UCLA student in the second row posted the whole exchange on TikTok with the caption, "Obama just ended Trump in 10 seconds flat." Within 20 minutes, it had hundreds of thousands of views. The comments piled up. "Trump's therapist just quit." Another, "He's not running for president anymore, he's running from Obama." Twitter, still called that by millions despite the rebrand, lit up instantly. Journalists shared the clip, one from the LA Times writing, "Obama just reminded everyone why timing is everything in politics. Memes flooded in, Trump pouting next to Obama with the caption, "Talk to me when you're over it." Cable networks scrambled. CNN cut into live programming to replay the moment, their anchor barely suppressing a laugh as she explained the crowd's reaction lasted nearly a full minute. MSNBC ran it on a loop, breaking down Obama's timing like it was game film. Fox News tried to counter with the Chiron. Obama's cheap shot sparks outrage, though even their panelists smirked through the spin. By morning on the East Coast, the clip topped YouTube's trending page. One video titled, "Obama Destroys Trump with Savage Line," had racked up 3 million views before breakfast. Podcasts rushed out emergency episodes calling it a cultural earthquake. A comedian in Austin tweeted, "Obama just stole every stand-up comic's closer and dropped it on a Thursday night." Reddit threads swelled with people dissecting the silence before the punchline like it was a masterclass. "He paused for 6 seconds. That's why it hit like a freight train," one wrote. Another added, "Trump has Truth Social. Obama has timing. Guess which one works?" Even late-night rivals piled on. Jimmy Kimmel opened with, "I was gonna tell a Trump joke tonight, but Obama already did it better." Stephen Colbert followed. "Obama doesn't need a Netflix special, just a chair, a camera, and one Trump rally clip." Both replayed the viral moment to thunderous laughter from their own audiences. But not everyone was laughing. Conservative groups on Facebook called the line disrespectful and beneath a former president. Memes spread of Trump photoshopped as a bruised boxer under the headline, "Fake Knockout." At 3 a.m., Trump himself posted in all caps, "Obama was never funny. Low rating show, totally fake audience, sad." Screenshots went viral instantly with replies like, "Obama lives rent-free and Trump pays the rent on time." Meanwhile, regular people shared the clip in break rooms, on subways, in group chats. A man in Dallas filmed his grandmother watching it on an iPad. She nearly fell out of her chair laughing. A Portland teacher said his students quoted the line so often he made them write essays on why humor can cut deeper than anger. What gave the moment staying power wasn't just the laugh, it was that it felt real. Obama wasn't reading from a teleprompter. He was calm, sitting in a chair, and with one effortless line, he turned years of political noise into a joke the whole country could share. It wasn't mean, it wasn't nasty, it was witty, clean, and sharp, and the numbers proved it. Within 48 hours, the clip had 50 million views across platforms. Hashtags like #GObamaMicDrop and Your Father Figure trended for days. Even celebrities started weighing in. Chrissy Teigen tweeted, "Obama just gave me my new ringtone." Mark Ruffalo joked, "The Hulk couldn't smash harder than that line." But as unstoppable as the internet storm seemed, one question lingered. How would Trump respond when the cameras were on and the crowd was his? By the weekend, anticipation had reached a boil. Everyone knew Trump wasn't going to let Obama's viral moment slide. For years, he had built his brand on never backing down. No fight too small, no insult left unanswered. So when word spread he was speaking at a rally in Des Moines, Iowa, the press swarmed the city. They weren't there for policy. They were there for the comeback. The rally grounds felt like a sporting event. Thousands waved flags, wore red caps, and chanted in unison. News crews lined the barricades, microphones in hand, bracing for impact. Backstage, though, Trump's advisors weren't as confident. Some urged restraint, others pushed him to hit back harder than ever. One aide later revealed Trump had watched Obama's clip on a loop, seething. He thinks Obama embarrassed him in front of the whole world, and Trump hates nothing more than being laughed at. When Trump finally took the stage, the crowd roared. He soaked it in, clapping, pointing to signs, basking in chants. But once the noise settled, he went straight for Obama. I watched this so-called joke. "Obama made the other night," he began, voice sharp. "The fake news is acting like it's the greatest thing ever said in television history. Folks, it wasn't funny, it wasn't even close. Totally scripted, totally staged." The crowd booed, shouting insults. Trump leaned into it. "They stacked the audience with Hollywood liberals, had all the cameras ready, and they think they can make me the punchline. I've been the punchline my whole life, and guess what? I'm still standing. I beat Hillary. I beat the fake media. And if Obama had ever had the guts to run against me, I would have beaten him too." The arena erupted, flags waving. But Trump wasn't done. His tone hardened. "This is what they do, folks. They mock, they insult, they try to humiliate. But they're not just laughing at me. They're laughing at you, the people who love this country, the people who built it." Chants of "USA, USA" thundered back. Trump raised his hand, soaking it in. But behind the bluster, his irritation was clear, his gestures sharper, his pacing restless. Even his own base could sense the joke had landed deeper than he wanted to admit. Commentators pounced. On CNN, one analyst said, "Obama used humor to disarm. Trump used anger to defend. One went viral for wit, the other for fury, a tale of two styles." MSNBC hosts mocked Trump's claim that Obama's line was scripted, replaying raw footage that showed him clearly improvising. Even Fox News, while defending Trump, ran the clip again, giving Obama's joke more airtime. The response, online, was mixed. Supporters praised Trump for standing up to Obama, but critics said his defensiveness only made the joke sting worse. One viral tweet summed it up. "When Obama laughs, America laughs. When Trump shouts, America scrolls." Even some Republicans admitted privately that it was a rough moment. A former GOP strategist told reporters, "Trump can handle political attacks. What he's never figured out is how to handle being the punchline. That's why Obama gets under his skin, because humor isn't something you can fight with volume." Back at Mar-a-Lago, aides reportedly scrambled to shift Trump's focus. At Mar-a-Lago, aides tried to push Trump toward upcoming campaign stops, but he kept circling back to the clip. He wanted ways to fight it, even floating the idea of filming. A comedy-style rebuttal. The plan was quickly scrapped, but the fact he suggested it showed how rattled he was. Meanwhile, Obama's line kept spreading, reaching audiences far beyond politics. Talk show hosts, Instagram comedians, even TikTok creators known for dance videos were reenacting it, keeping it alive in the cultural bloodstream. No matter how many times Trump tried to redirect attention, the joke followed him. And soon, the story wasn't just about the rally, it was about America's reaction. By Monday morning, the Obama moment wasn't just a YouTube clip. It was a national conversation. In diners, barbershops, and coffee shops, people were quoting the line, debating it, or pulling it up on their phones for anyone who hadn't seen it yet. In Portland, Maine, two retirees sat by the window of a coffee shop. Harold Green, a Navy veteran, laughed so hard at the video on his tablet that his glasses slid down his nose. Listen to this. He called Trump the father figure he never had. His friend Marjorie shook her head, smiling. "You know what makes it so good?" He didn't sound mean, just calm, like he was telling the truth, plain and simple. But in Tulsa, Oklahoma, inside a packed barbecue joint, the reaction was different. A man in a red cap grumbled at a Fox News replay. "That wasn't funny. He thinks he's clever, but he's mocking us." Another added, "That line wasn't just about Trump, it was about all of us." Heads nodded in agreement, though a few couldn't help cracking reluctant smiles. Humor, after all, sneaks past even the strongest defenses. Classrooms were no different. In Sacramento, high schoolers passed phones between classes, replaying the clip. "Bro, he roasted him," one shouted. "My dad watched it 5 times last night." Teachers overheard and had to choose whether to ignore it or turn it into a lesson. One government teacher tossed her prepared notes aside and asked, "Why do you think humor can cut deeper than anger?" The discussion lit up the room. Workplaces buzzed too. In an Indianapolis office, employees huddled around a phone in the break room. Even colleagues who usually avoided politics couldn't stop laughing. "I normally don't care about this stuff," one woman admitted, "but that was hilarious." Another added, "First time I've laughed about politics in years." The Diat Uri line even made its way into pulpits. In Dallas, a pastor worked it gently into his Sunday sermon. Sometimes the best response isn't anger, it's wisdom wrapped in humor, like a certain former president reminded us this week. The congregation chuckled knowingly. It wasn't framed as politics, it was culture. Still, not everyone was comfortable. On NPR, a caller from Michigan voiced concern. "Sure, it was funny, but what does it say about our country when the biggest political moment of the week is a joke? Shouldn't we be talking about issues that matter?" The host responded, "That's the power of humor. It captures attention. But yes, the question is, what do we do after the laughter?" Meanwhile, podcasts across the spectrum lit up with debates. In Austin, one popular political show split its panel. Half applauded Obama for cutting through the noise, half argued he'd deepened polarization. "Humor works because it feels true," one panelist said, "but truth can sting, and for some, it feels like humiliation," another countered. Or maybe it just exposed insecurity that was already there. Even abroad, the line made waves. British papers ran headlines like, "Obama silences Trump with killer wit." In Canada, late-night hosts replayed the moment. A German commentator remarked, "It shows how humor in American politics can be more powerful than speeches." By Tuesday, the country had split into two camps. Some laughed, replayed, and celebrated the line as refreshing honesty. Others saw it as an insult aimed at their identity. But on one point, both sides agreed. It was unforgettable. A professor at the University of Wisconsin explained it on PBS. "Humor is dangerous because it bypasses logic. You don't argue with a joke. You either laugh or you don't. And when it lands, it can reshape the narrative in ways no policy speech can." That's why the clip didn't just live online, it echoed everywhere. Living rooms, classrooms, offices, even pulpits. People who usually tuned politics out suddenly found themselves laughing, quoting Obama, and in some cases, rethinking the entire rivalry. But beneath the laughter was a bigger question. What did this moment reveal about leadership, communication, and how Americans deal with conflict? Obama never raised his voice. He didn't insult with venom. He didn't try to win with volume. Instead, he used wit. Calm, sharp, disarming. And it struck a chord in a way speeches rarely do. Because here's the truth. You can argue with policy. You can dissect a speech. But you can't argue with a punchline that makes a room explode in laughter. For that night in Los Angeles, Obama controlled the narrative without forcing it. His calmness connected people in a way outrage never could. Think about it. A grandmother in Dallas laughed at it in her living room. A college student in California shared it with friends. Office workers in Indiana replayed it at lunch. Even people who hated the line couldn't escape it. It was everywhere. That universality is rare in today's politics. And within it was a lesson. Trump answered with anger, framing himself as the victim. Obama answered with patience and humor. And sometimes that's enough. You don't always need to shout louder. Sometimes calmness, playfulness even, can dismantle hostility more effectively than rage ever could. That's why the moment resonated. It wasn't just about politics. It was about life. It reminded people that politics doesn't always have to be bitter or exhausting. Sometimes it can be human. Sometimes it can even be funny. And for just a few seconds, laughter replaced division, And that's no small thing in a country so often split down the middle. The clip didn't erase America's political divides. Trump supporters still felt insulted, Obama critics still rolled their eyes. But it did spotlight something deeper: how much people crave authenticity. The joke landed not because it was polished or rehearsed, but because it felt real, like something he thought of in the moment. And in a media world where so much feels scripted, authenticity is magnetic. That's the real legacy of that night. Not just a viral clip or a headline, but a reminder that humor, authentic, thoughtful humor, still matters. It can cut through noise, disarm anger, and leave people with something they'll remember. That's a lesson for all of us. Whether you're debating a rival, dealing with a coworker, or navigating family tensions, sometimes the sharpest weapon isn't shouting, it's humor. Sometimes laughter builds a bridge that words can't. So yes, people will remember that night as the moment Obama destroyed Trump with humor. But maybe the real destruction wasn't aimed at Trump at all. Maybe it was aimed at the bitterness, the heaviness, the constant fighting that wears people down. For one night, humor cut through, and people felt lighter. That's why the clip keeps getting replayed, quoted, and shared. Because it reminded people that even in the chaos of politics, there's room for humanity, for wit, for something other than anger. If there's one takeaway, it's this: never underestimate the power of humor. Never underestimate the calm voice in a loud room. And never forget that sometimes the most powerful line is the one that makes people laugh and think at the same time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want more moments that pull back the curtain on politics, humor, and the lessons hidden in both, make sure to hit subscribe, because there are plenty more stories worth telling and you won't want to miss them.